All right, Jastin. A through Z. It is you, I think.
No,
Yeah.
I was just making a face. It's me.
Man, don't fuck with me like that.
I had to, man. F.
O.J. Simpson's dead. Does that count?
Does that count under F?
Yeah.
There was no F in there at all.
Sure.
Well, he is a remnant of an icon of our failed criminal justice system.
There we go.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I mean, and also the glove does not fit. You must have quit.
There you go.
Okay. I like that one. How do you feel about it?
I was going to say, well,
he feels.
Well, I could say what I feel about it. He's a fucker. I'm trying to
There you
figure out
go.
every F I can throw in your way since you tried to call up my F credibility here. I mean,
So obviously you felt something about his death.
yeah, because, like, let's just, for argument's sake, say he didn't do it. He's still a scumbag about it. So, I don't give a fuck. What about you guys? How do you feel about Orenthal?
Now I'm in a similar boat with you, I think. It was just kind of like, oh, he died. And I was like, an update came up on my phone and I went, oh, he died. Well,
All right.
he's dead.
Yeah, honestly, same. It was kind of like that indifference or that just kind of like, it's a thing. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. It's interesting how that happens. Like when I saw the report that Carl Weathers died, I was like, oh man, I was really bummed about it. A reasonable amount of bum. I mean, obviously his family and his friends and people like that, of course, would be more devastated, but still, I felt something. This, not so much. It was just kind of like, okay. But I do wonder how sports media treated it. I don't know if you watched anything, Sterling, but did they do anything?
I don't think so. I think everybody's kind of just
Distancing themselves, huh? They kind of like, well, he died and O.J. Simpson died.
They're just making it
from this
like
year to that year.
Like a strict news story. Like they might put it in some sports context of like former Buffalo Bill or former USC football player, Orenthal James, right? Yeah. O.J. Simpson, died. And in other news, Tom Brady might not be able to buy part of the Raiders.
Okay. Because, see, I wondered about that because I just doubted that any of those sports outlets would be like, oh, man, he's talk about his accomplishments. I just didn't think it would be covered like that. Like, it wouldn't be covered
messy.
like. Yeah, it's so messy that I just wondered how they would treat that. And I didn't get a chance to watch any sports to see, but I wondered about that. But just based on what you're saying, that sounds about right. That would be the smart thing to do.
It's kind of like when like Joe Paterno died. Like, there were people that obviously, there probably someone somewhere that was like, oh, let's remember this guy and talk about all the great things he did. But he was also a few months away, like a few months after getting fired because he covered up for Jerry Sandusky raping a bunch of children. So, legacy tarnished.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
regardless of anything with the trial, like I said, you can believe he's innocent, you can not, whatever. You know, he's doing that whole writing a book if I did it. The lawyer that covers his estate is like, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure her family gets fucking not a cent of his estate, even though he still owes them money. You know, scumbag behavior.
Yeah.
And the fucking thing, he goes to jail for armed robbery because he sold a guy a bunch of his memorabilia, then went to go steal it back. And then goes to jail and gets out of jail and just like next day he's like on Twitter going, hey guys, it's the juice. I'm back. Like, and the thing is if his only crime was that armed robbery, that might have been an okay response. And I know that's the only crime he's been convicted of, but, you know, in the court of public opinion, that man's a murderer. Legal court, innocent. Public opinion, murderous son of a bitch. So, you know what you don't do when you're a murderous son of a bitch that never went to jail for that crime? Come back going, hey guys, the juice is here.
Yeah.
It's in poor taste, yes.
Yes, very poor taste.
Everything that man did after he got acquitted was in poor taste, though. That's the thing, is he never did a single thing that was in at least okay taste or just taste. You know, like I said, even if you're innocent of that, you don't make a mockery of it afterwards and not expect me to call you a fucking son of a bitch. Like, there's a difference between being relieved and happy that you weren't convicted and then making a mockery of it. You know?
Yeah.
Because there's the difference between going, I'm glad that, you know, true justice was carried out and I was found innocent because that's what I am. And going, oh, I was found not guilty. Let me make a bunch of jokes about doing it now.
Yeah. And instead of being like being found innocent, but still apologetic towards the family and being like, I want to help find the real person. I want to, you know, if sometimes you just feel like if you were innocent, you would have just handled things a lot differently.
Do you know what is the perfect thing to say in that instance? Go, you know, today's a very big day for me. I was found innocent because that's what I am. And these people believed me, but we don't need to let that overshadow the fact that this family still lost somebody. Justice for that still hasn't been carried out. Yeah. So that should be something that we keep in our minds also.
Yep.
It's not that hard to say that shit. Because I don't care.
Yeah.
Because honestly, at a certain point, it doesn't matter if you mean it. So many people say things like that and never mean it. But you say it just so you're not a scumbag. You know? And that's why I don't think the guy's a sociopath. Because a sociopath, while not feeling it, would have known to say that. Because they're like, oh no, I have to blend in. I have to do the thing everybody thinks I should do. Otherwise, they'll know. Nah, he's just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he never came close to saying anything remotely like that.
Nah, went out and wrote a book saying, if I did it.
Yeah, if I did it.
Went and did a news interview, and he's like, you want to hear a joke? And she's all, what? And he's like, acting like he's going to stab her. That's the shit he does.
I didn't know that happened.
He's a fucking scumbag.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's one of the things that's truly, truly sucks when you go back and watch the Naked Gun movies. Is his fucking face. There was something else I was going to bring up to you guys. that happened this week. It's something I saw on TikTok. And I don't remember what it is. And it's making me very sad. Oh, I know one. So Forbes, a few days ago, about 4 days ago, Forbes magazine comes out with that article that says Disney has yet to recoup the amount of money it spent buying Star Wars off box office alone. And a lot of, like, you know, just dumbass Star Trek or Star Wars people are like coming out the woodwork being like, see, Disney's ruining Star Wars. It's killing it. It's dying. It can't even make the money back. It's because it's woke. It's woke Disney Star Wars. It's bad. I watched this TikTok about this guy talking about it. And then he's like, all right, let's break this down. It's like, you know, roughly, if you do like just the amount of profit on the Disney Star Wars trilogy, right? It's about 2.5 billion. After you take, you know, the budget, doubling it for the thing, and then, you know, what the sole profit is about 2.5 billion, which is, you know, less than the 4.5 they paid for Star Wars. But then he went and looked at the original trilogy. If you take the original trilogy, or not the original, the prequel trilogy, the one, you know, that George Lucas made right before all this, right? You go and you look at the prequel trilogy and you adjust it for inflation and you do all this other stuff. It made about $2.5 billion too. Disney is literally just maintaining the exact same amount of money for Star Wars. Yeah. And that's just that. Disney also owns the merchandising. Think about how many millions of dollars they've made in just Grogu Baby Yoda motherfuckers.
Yeah, I was about to say the Baby Yodas.
Just all the Baby Yodas. Think about the money they've made for little assholes to go to Disney World and make lightsabers. Just in the make a lightsaber part. They are fucking printing money off this. Not a single person at Disney is going, oh man, we haven't made our money back in just this alone. We've probably profited $8 billion off Star Wars through toys, licensing, TV shows, all this bullshit. But oh no, we haven't made $4 billion in movies. Who cares? Nobody's thinking you're going to make $4 billion in profit alone off 3 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And it's also, let's, like, for argument's sake, let's say Disney is losing money. It's not from Star Wars. It's not completely from Marvel. It might be a little bit from Marvel on the movie side, but man, they got the comics, the toys, the lunch boxes, the fucking video games, all that other shit. They're fucking making money. They don't give a shit about any of this. They don't care that they might not have made $4 billion off the movies. They're making so much other fucking money. They don't care. If they came out tomorrow and went, well, we've made $4.5 billion off Grogu's alone, I would go, yeah, tracks. That little fucker's everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't get why everybody's throwing a fucking fit about that. Or trying to act like it's a fucking tell. Like, these fuckers really are just trying to grasp on everything, don't they? I mean, you're a resident Star Wars expert, Jastin. What do you think?
Dang, I like how I'm an expert. just because I like it the best out of us three.
Yeah, that's 100% the case.
Why are you sounding like you're offended by the fact that I called you an expert?
Because I really don't consider myself an expert. I haven't read enough of the books.
I said on the podcast. I didn't say in life.
I just don't like that term expert. There's a lot of pressure.
Compared to me and Heather, you are the Star Wars
Yeah.
expert. Have you seen a single episode of Star Wars television, Jastin?
Have I?
You've seen The Mandalorian, right?
You watched it.
Like, does that count? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen the first season of it. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying you have watched a single episode of any of the shit they've put out Star Wars television, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I haven't seen a fucking one. So,
Damn.
I've actually. Oh, go ahead.
You've watched so much Star Trek or Star Wars compared to me, Jastin.
Yeah,
Have you watched Solo?
Yep.
I haven't seen that. What have you seen, Heather?
I was just gonna say I've seen the original 3, and then the ones from the early 2000s. That's the only Star Wars I've seen.
She ain't even seen the new trilogy yet, Jastin.
Which is supposedly way more amazing. I just haven't seen it.
That depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jastin, you're our resident Star Wars expert.
Wow. I guess so. I guess I am in that regard compared to you two. I don't know, man. I mean, 2 billion seems like a good of number for a trilogy of movies. I mean, I don't think they were projecting 4 billion when they started making the movies and lined out the trilogy. I don't know if 4 billion was anywhere near the projections. And if it was, that just feels really unrealistic, just based on your previous numbers and things like that. But if it's netting about the same as the other trilogy, the prequel trilogy did, then at least you could kind of look at that and go, okay, we didn't have a drastic drop off despite the transition. And that seems good. Like, just numbers and what I know about just profits and things like that. One of the hardest things to do is, they talk about keeping an existing customer versus signing a new customer and different things like that. And the cost of transition and change, and how sometimes that can be more daunting than the cost to just keep things going the way they are and stuff like that. So the fact that that really no money box office wise was lost in the transition to Disney is probably a win. And then on top of that, like you said, now you got a theme park for Star Wars. You got you had a Mandalorian series that was nominated and won awards and had iconic characters. And like you said, the baby Yodas and all of that stuff. So you got some out of that. A lot of people said that series Andor is really good. I've heard nothing but good things about that series.
I've not watched it.
I haven't either. But I'm curious about it because I just keep hearing positive about it. So, I mean, you got all the animated stuff now. You have that stuff too. And like,
well, see, and I'm kind of excited. There's that new series coming out, I think later this year, Acolyte, Star Wars Acolyte.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually want to watch that just because, you know why?
Too.
It doesn't take place during all this shit that we've already all seen all this other shit before. It takes place a few hundred years before the Phantom Menace. And I'm like, oh, cool. I want to watch that. I want to see shit I haven't seen before. I want to see things I want to see characters I haven't seen before. I think Yoda might probably, if I had to hedge my bet, I think Yoda's going to make an appearance because he's technically alive during that time. But okay, that's fine. The obligatory, we got to throw Yoda in something. Okay, it happens. But like the fact that it's just new shit, even though it's technically old shit, but still, like, that intrigues me. I'm like, oh, I'm getting some new shit. Like, they might not say the name Skywalker anywhere. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that that's what should excite people is that you do get to some new stuff. And that's what's cool is that they're making new stuff. And every now and then you get some old stuff too, like the Obi-Wan, little Kenobi series that they did. That was pretty cool. You got some scenes and some stuff. They did some Darth Vader stuff that was pretty nice in that. So that was cool. But I'm excited for the new stuff too. I'm excited to see what they do with some of these new stories and properties. And you would think that would excite people more than people hate on it. But I don't know. People just love to hate on shit. They don't care if it's successful or not. Even if it was successful, they'd find some reason to say, oh, it's too woke or this character's a Mary Sue. It's just whatever.
Do you know how much bullshit you have to be on for me to actively go out of my way to defend Star Wars?
It's a lot, yeah.
I know.
Because I don't give. I've seen all the I've seen the movies, like the Core 9 movies. I've seen all that shit, and it's fine. I'm not going to rag anybody for liking Star Wars. It's not my type of sci-fi. To me, it actually leans more into fantasy than it does sci-fi. My version of sci-fi that I like is Star Trek. I like that shit. But I get why people like Star Wars. You're making me defend it, though. I mean, that's like trying to make me defend Metallica. Not Saint Anger. Saint Anger is a joy, is a pleasure to defend. Because it's the only good thing they've ever done. But
oh, what's wrong with you? Anyway, back to Star Wars. We're not going there. We're not going there today.
What, Jastin?
But
are you getting a little Saint Angry?
Stop it. Stop it.
That was actually really funny.
No, it wasn't, Heather. Don't encourage him.
Yeah, you wouldn't like him when he's Saint Angry.
Why does it give you so much pleasure to hate on Metallica? I don't understand what this is. Why do you hate them so much?
Jastin,
There's
you can't
no
say
reason
that it gives me joy to hate Metallica. Right now in this conversation, I'm the only one defending them.
But you're taking what the majority of people think was a bad period of time for them, and you said it's the best time. That's just horrible.
It is the best, though. You know what I want to do, Jastin? And this is what I'm going to probably do this weekend. I'm going to see if I can get a sample of just Lars's snare drum from that album. So I can put that on my little sound pad and just bing.
I mean, but that's just horrible, man. Why are you going to take one of their lowest periods and say that was their best period?
Because it was.
You're just one of those people. You'd be that person to be like, when Elvis was the best, when he was dead on the toilet. Like that, you're like that person.
Well, I am that person. I mean, yes.
That was a bad example because we know how much he hates all this.
You literally just went,
I did it.
Sterling, it's like if you were the person that you are.
I did it on, I knew you'd like that. But you get my point.
It's like, Sterling, it's almost like you hate Ronald Reagan, too. But are you going to say he's the worst president that's ever existed? Oh, man.
I don't understand you.
That was good. I'm going to get it, Jastin. It's going to be bing.
Don't. Please don't. Just give them their flowers, Sterling. They're Hall of Famers.
Jastin, yes, they're one Hall of Fame album.
I mean, I do remember, Jastin, when you were in town, and in honor of you being in town, he definitely put Metallica on.
We played some Metallica for you, Jazz.
It was sick. I heard y'all were jamming and everything. We were out, the whole car was jamming.
We was, because it was all madly in anger with you.
Oh, no.
Jastin, that is fucking poetry right there. I'm madly in anger with you. Jastin.
It's toiletry, maybe.
If you told me that was Billy Shakespeare, I would have believed it. How many people have I pissed off today? Just in the intro.
Too many to name.
Oh, man. That's good. I haven't done that in a while. Because I know, Jastin, you have some friends that have actively told you how much they hate it when I bring up Metallica's best album. Because, they're the ones that obviously hate Metallica if they don't like their best album. So who's the real Metallica fan here? The one that likes their best album or the one that hates it? Just throwing that out there into the universe. But I think I've given them a reprieve for too long.
Just a rotten man.
Are you madly in anger with me, Jastin?
See, just say that out loud. That sounds dumb. That just sounds stupid. You're saying that it's the best. Just saying that. When you said it out loud, it sounds so stupid. And then for you to say it's the best, I hate you.
I think that's what I think is giving me so much joy is you're getting you're like, but you're saying it's the best.
Oh man. I'm not gonna lie though, it was a peak joke. You get a little sane angry.
You have to encourage him, Heather. If you didn't laugh, he would have stopped.
No, because I would have laughed.
It's the only thing I had to contribute.
I don't care if anyone else laughs at my shit. I think I'm hilarious.
I guess that's true. Maybe it would have worked.
Oh, I'm so fucking red for this lighting. Oh, that's not good. I look like the Red Hulk. I really am saying anger now. Oh, I'm almost as red as that fist on the cover of Saint Anger. It's Kismet. This is going to just be me just Saint Angering the whole podcast now. Oh, because I'm getting infinitely more joy out of that. Oh, all right. You guys want to talk about these fucking movies?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Why won't you play?
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we are going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with two movies. We're going to talk about First Omen, and we're going to talk about Civil War, which you got a little preview on because me and Jastin are in a civil war now. It's the Saint Angries versus the whatevers. But we will talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with those movies. We will have time codes in the description. That's not how that goes. I fucked up myself there. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in both audio and video formats. And with all that, we're starting with First Omen, right? I'm a mess. I giggled myself crazy.
The Saint Anger effect.
It is. That's how giddy Saint. Why do you want to take that joy away from me, Jastin?
Oh, no. It's not joyous.
Yes, First Omen.
That's not what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you're just feeling Saint Angry. Heather, What are your spoiler-free thoughts about First Omen?
One of those flawless transitions again.
Yeah.
Yes. First Omen. All right. So my first thoughts about it are it was pretty decent. I think that it had a really interesting story, like that it felt like it tried to do something a little bit different with these types of movies than what we've seen in at least 10 other that we've done on the podcast alone. But it felt a little bit different. Felt like had a little, I would say a little bit more substance than some of the other ones. And I think the acting was really good. I think that the cinematography of it, some cool shots and things like that they did in this movie. I think that our lead actress, I believe her name is Nell Tiger Free, I think is her real name, but Margaret in this movie. I think she was good. I have not really seen her in a whole lot of other things before this, so I didn't have much to go off of there, but I think she did a good job. I think she held her own as the lead of this movie. She was believable in the role. There are, of course, some things that I definitely think could have been done differently or better or just not even done at all with some of it. But I mean, I think because this type of story, especially lately, I feel like it's been told so much. There's the same things, same elements in this horror movie that there are in so many other ones, including obviously just the original Omen, but I don't know. There was something about this one that I did think edged out most of the other ones in this category, at least that I've seen more recently. But yeah, I think it touched on some things that I think you don't really hear talked about a lot in the context of this type of movie necessarily, but it also kept true to the traditions of the things that it did want to touch on for the sake of what the story was. So I kind of like how they towed that line. And I will say that this did have intensity, at least for me, the whole way through. It was, it kept me intrigued. I think this is sort of everything that The Nun 2 wanted to be. Yes, I will continue to bring up how terrible that movie was. But I feel like all of the tension building that was missed from that movie, I do think that we do get here in this movie. I do think it does good with that kind of thing. I was anticipating what was going to happen with some of these characters and in some of these scenes. So yeah, I think this did every element that you're looking for in this type of horror movie. I do think it did right. That being said, it's not a perfect movie, but it was a serviceable movie, I would say. So overall, I would say I thought it was pretty solid for the most part.
Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I liked it. I think that with a movie like this, especially when it's a prequel to something that's a classic or that's considered kind of like a favorite among horror movies and stuff like The Omen, that's a very memorable film and just memorable subject matter, imagery, things like that. So a lot of people are going to go into this and kind of where it needs to wind up. Where it has to be. Pretty much what kind of ending you're going to have, or at least where it needs to stop at least, because it can only lead to where the original Omen starts, being that it's a prequel movie. So I think the most important thing a movie like this can do is what is the journey to get there? Like, we know kind of where it's going to wind up. We know what it's going to have to set up. It's got to set up some things and explain some things that set up the original Omen and where Damien comes from. So I think the challenge of this movie is not only that it's trying to be a prequel to something that's a fan favorite before it, but then it's also got to tell its own story and not be the same thing we've seen every time and somewhat have appealing characters, things like that. And so, like, I think this movie succeeded in most of those things. I think for the most part, it was very good about having the spooky atmosphere, that foreboding feeling of what's going to happen to these people. It was able to, I think, establish that and keep that for most of it. I do think that Neil Tiger Free did a great job in her performance as Margaret. And I think that this was the right character for a situation like this, because we know, just if you've seen the first Omen, you know that this is like, this whole thing is this big conspiracy. And there's all this like religious back and forth going on in this big conspiracy that surrounds Damien and the Antichrist and all of that stuff. But I think having a character come in that's essentially new to all of these happenings, and so you kind of have a character that is learning about this as we are, but at the same time, what was she like? Like, I don't even know what you call it. Like, she wasn't a nun, but she was like training to be one, or was like in the in-between process. I don't even know what you would call her.
God, I would have known that
but
until you asked it, and then it went out of my head. Like a nun apprentice. A
okay,
nun-tentis.
but yeah, we'll go with that. So, like, because that was the position of the character, and the character's not like a full-on nun yet, it gives you room to play around with this character, you know, because this isn't somebody who's devout or who is bought into whatever the conspiracy is, or is on the other side of that and really doesn't believe, you know. So it allows her to just be a human experience in this, and to have humanity and to question things and to wonder why these things are happening. And I think because of the positioning of that character and the mindset of that character, that is ultimately why this works.
Yeah. Novice. That's what they're called.
Okay.
Officially.
Okay.
But
So
yeah.
anticlimactic.
Okay.
I know. I thought it was something else too, but I just looked it up. No, I get what you're saying, Jastin. I agree with that. That's why it does work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. The positioning of the character was right, but then you have to have an actress who can pull that off, that can go through this wide range of emotions. Because if you just think about all the emotions that this character, that this woman had to portray and like go through and experience, and everything that had to happen to this person in this story, that's a huge palette of emotions, and she nails it. She nails it. Like everything from everything to, oh, I'm just being a human. I want to be just human in this moment and care, to, am I going freaking nuts? She nails all of it. Just all of it. And oh God, what am I looking at right now? I feel like all of it is there to some degree. And every time she was tasked to react to something, I felt like it was the right reaction for what I was seeing. And that really is the vast majority, the reason why this movie works. Because even though, yeah, it's Omen, so of course you're expecting this to be scary and jump scares and scary imagery and all of that stuff. And all of that stuff is there. But I think another good thing about the movie is that it never felt over-reliant on one technique. Like we talked about in The Nun, too, how we just kept seeing this same scenario of, character walking or, somebody's by themselves and the nuns, we kept kind of talking about how that was just how it seemed kind of like a one-trick pony in that movie. What I liked about this is, yeah, there are some jump scares, but they're fairly early. And then the movie just doesn't go back, just doesn't keep resorting to that to try to scare you. What it does do effectively, though, is that I think it's very cerebral in how it plays. It gives you a little bit here and there, and you're seeing this imagery, and you might see a hand or a claw, but then that's all you see. And then they show you a little something else, and then there are scenes. So it's got a little bit of everything. There are scenes meant to be jump scares. There are scenes meant to just kind of gross you out. There's like that gross kind of imagery. There's the scary imagery. There's the atmosphere imagery. There's the spooky imagery. There's the mystery to it. Like you're trying to figure out what's going on and the ins and outs of it. So it has all of those things we kind of like in our horror movies. And I think it balances how it uses those elements fairly well. I think it does a good job of all of that. And by the time it gets to the end and the reveals and everything like that, nothing is shocking per se, but you do kind of wind up leaving the theater like, damn, that was fucked up. Just after everything that happened. And I don't know. I think that's a nice place to be. At least I wasn't angry. I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, oh, this is the best movie ever. But I was kind of like, damn, you just couldn't help but go, damn, after it was all over. And of course, it has some of the homages to the Omen. It has some connected pieces and stuff like that. But I think overall it succeeds. The one turnoff might be that I think it is a bit of a slow burn, and that's not always necessarily a bad thing with me, but I could see that being a turnoff for some people. Like if you're one of those people where you need something big happening every 5 minutes, this definitely is not that movie. It's one where it kind of makes you wait. It develops, it wants to spend time developing characters, the story and stuff. It wants you to care a little more about the people involved. And I don't think that's really a problem, but I could see that being a problem for some. So, but in defense of the movie, I don't think the original Omen was just a scare you every 5 minutes kind of movie either. It was very cerebral too, and it built to things and tried to have some payoffs, but it built to things. So I think in the spirit of that, this movie is right on course with most of that. So yeah, I think overall I did like this. It's got some problems, but it wasn't a bad time at the movies for me.
Are you guys just trying to make me fucking Debbie Downer over here? You're like, oh, it's good. We liked it. Movie's okay. I wish I was you guys with this. When I left this theater, Jastin, I wasn't going, man, that was fucked up. I was just like, okay, that happened. Like I didn't particularly feel anything was that creepy. Everything to me was just kind of by the books. It just kind of gave me what I expected, a standard, somebody's giving birth to a demon child movie. No more, no less. I mean, it's better than The Nun, sure. But I mean, Heather, that's a very low bar.
True.
I don't know.
I mean, it's also better than Pray for the Devil. You got to say that much.
Also still low bar. It was not better than Pope's Exorcist. For one, there was no Russell Crowe on a Vespa. How do you expect me to enjoy your exorcism movie when there's no Russell Crowe on a Vespa? That is the greatest thing to happen to exorcism movies since the first Exorcist.
Now that is a bar. That is a bar to set. Yeah. Russell Crowe on a Vespa.
I can't agree with that, man. I don't think I agree with that. I think it's better than Pope's Exorcist. It ends way better. It wraps up way better than Pope's Exorcist does. I didn't like the third act.
What do you mean? What do you didn't like the Pope's Exorcist when it became Tekken?
Or like that
Or
Indiana
Indiana
Jones
Jones
quest or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
They quested into a Tekken. Dude, they had a fucking full-on fireball Mortal Kombat match at the end of that movie, man.
Yeah, they did.
What did they do in this movie? Ran away. Ooh. Come on, what's more exciting? Mortal Kombat or running away? Shh. Sign me up for Mortal Kombat every day.
I don't know. What am I running from?
Mortal Kombat. They could have done a Mortal Kombat at the end of this one, but they chose not to. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, there was some tension in it, but also I think why Pope's Exorcist to me works a little bit better than this. I mean, sure, yeah, I'll give you that, Jastin. Okay, this third act's technically better if you look at it from a movie making and narrative perspective. If those are your criteria, Jastin, I guess it's a better third act. But I think the whole movie just kind of lacks anything to dissolve tension. This movie is just monotonally tense. It just goes, hey guys, there's some tension. And it's just going to be some more tension. And here's some more tension. With very few elements to bring you out of it. And that's what I think this movie needed. I think this movie did need a little bit of whimsy or some lightheartedness or something to bring your guard down a little more at times. I think there are times in this movie where you would have been served by having your guard come down. But at no point did I feel like they were actually doing that in any successful or meaningful way. And it was just tension, tension, tension. I mean, I think when you're talking about the pacing of this movie, Jastin, when you're talking about how it is kind of a slow burn, I think that that's what they were trying to use to dissolve tension is just time. And that's not the most effective way to do it. I just think they needed some more, especially in the second act. I think the second act is where it loses any of the elements they could have used. And in turn, just kind of, to me, when it becomes monotonously tense, and like I said, I wasn't really surprised by anything. So, I guess, when you're talking about like the journey of it all and stuff like that, that's where it kind of lost me, was the journey. Because like, yeah, we knew the end, but the whole movie, I kind of felt like I knew how it was getting there. And unfortunately, it didn't feel like a pleasant, trip that I've done a lot, but you're always happy to do it. It just felt like that trip that you've done a ton of times. And it's just monotony. I will say this, the girl was fine. I liked the girl. She was a good actress. Who was the... God, it's been a minute since I saw this. Who's the Bill Nighy? That's what I was trying to think of. He was fine as the Cardinal. But, I just kind of wish there was something more. Maybe I need to take a break from all this shit. Let my sensitivities build back up. Because I'm really curious, Jastin, what when you walked out of this movie going, man, that was fucked up. What was fucked up? I feel like I missed something. I feel left out. I want to know what was fucked up because I didn't see it in this movie.
Don't worry, we got a spoiler section. I'll be able to explain myself.
But I just wish I had that when I watched it, is my point. But it's fine. It's not terrible. You know, there was at least effort and thought and purpose to this movie. There's no effort, thought, or purpose to half these fucking Exorcist movies where nuns get pregnant or not pregnant or whatever. They barely fucking try with those. So I give them credit for this. At least they tried to do something with it. So even if it didn't quite land with me, I guess, like as the shows, I'm more the minority when it comes to that opinion. So in a way, you could say the filmmakers were at least successful with what they did because they were able to do that for at least 2/3 of moviegoers. If you take us as a good sample. Spoilers?
Yeah. Oh, no. Recommendations first.
Yeah, that's what I meant, that word.
Spoilers.
That was just me hitting the wrong button. My finger rolled.
Recommendations and score.
I really did giggle myself stupid earlier. Jastin, what you got?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a recommend for me. I think that if you're a fan of the original Omen, I mean, you're not going to come out of this and go, oh, this is just as good, or it may be anything like that. But it didn't shame what we had before. It didn't shame it, you know. I think you'll appreciate the effort that was made. I think for the most part, there's enough like imagery and memorable scare parts and different things like that. I think that it's at least enough to elicit a decent time. You know, some may enjoy it more than others. I mean, so I don't think there's anything bad enough about it to where I would tell anybody to avoid this. I think it does enough right to warrant a recommendation. And I didn't have a bad time watching it, you know? I think it was nice, actually. It had been a while since we had seen a movie like this, especially like a prequel or something that's following up from something we've had before, where it was actually decent. You know, I'm just so used to these movies being bad. And I went in with such low expectations of this. I really just thought it was going to be terrible. You know, that was really my expectation. And maybe that's part of the reason why I enjoyed it more, maybe because my expectations were low. But I don't want to put it all on my expectations. I do think I'll be able to talk about how well it executed and why I do think it's a cut above some of the movies like this that we've seen. Like the Exorcist movies we talked about, like The Believer. Like, I think it's definitely a cut above, and I'm pretty sure, I'm confident most people will feel the same.
I forgot about that movie until you said its name.
Yes, The Believer. Good God. Anyway, I'm a believer in this one. I'm a believer in this movie. We'll just put it that way. This movie did enough and did it right. And honestly, some of these other movies we've seen recently could learn a lot from this movie. You know, when you try and you have a little ambition and you kind of care about the characters that are in the film, it shows. You know, it shows with your work and what you could do. You know, I could feel that there was more effort and attention to detail in this. So I appreciate the movie for that. We'll go 75 simultaneous burnings and hangings out of 100.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, in a time of like 500 exorcism movies a year, I would say this at least kind of stands out as more creative or more interesting. I was more invested and more interested in the story that they told in this movie than I am in most of the ones that are in this same vein of horror movie. So, you know, and I give it credit for that because I do feel like, especially because of like all of the other movies you're up against and the kind of that setback of people probably going into it with this idea of, oh, I've seen this a million times. And not to say that the entire movie was not a little bit like you expected some of the things and you knew some of the things were coming, but just to say that the way they told the story and the in general story that they told, it felt more like, I guess you could say maybe more of like a relatable story in some way, at least with the main character and just her being an actual person that's going through different feelings and emotions. And, you know, you just kind of feel like they connect you more in this movie with some of the characters' situations going on than a lot of other movies like this. So, yeah, I mean, I think if this is your type of movie, if you like horror movies, like, sure, like, I don't think you'll have a bad time with this movie. You know, it definitely was better than I expected it was going to be. I'll say that much. But again, it's not without its faults, but nothing that really just completely took me out of it compared to other movies, exorcist movies that are just like, what are you doing here, guys? Like Anne Wick at the end of what's it called? Pray for the Devil, where you're just like, what did this just turn into and why? Like, it doesn't fit with anything else going on. But yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to say that all of the characters are fleshed out super well, but the ones that they did give you time with, I feel like they felt like real people, you know, they felt like real characters, real people that, you know, weren't just reading from a script, you know, you felt like they were real. So I appreciated that from it. Yeah, I mean, go into it obviously knowing like what type of movie it is, but sure. Yeah. I don't say stray away from it, you know, like, and that is funny that you mentioned Exorcist Believer, because that was another one I was like, if you're going to roll into an old franchise classic, do it this way and not that way.
Yes, please.
Like,
yes, please.
That's
For the
just
love of
really
everything.
That's the biggest takeaway here that I could say for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of right there with you, Jastin, in my score. I'm also going to give it a 75. Embraces from an ex-lover until they literally fall apart in your arms out of 100.
What was that number you said, Heather?
75.
275s. Jeez. I mean, it's all right. I'm not mad I watched it. I just was not as entertained as you guys. So, I mean, I guess if somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, Sterling, did you see the First Omen? I'll be like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I was thinking about watching it. Should I go watch it? I'll be like, sure. You've got a 66% chance of thinking it's pretty good. And a 1/3 chance of thinking it's okay. I mean, that's odds. That's good odds. At least it's not like you've got 80% chance you're going to fucking hate it and 20% chance you're going to hate it even more than that. So, you know, it's a capable movie. It's, you know, especially when you compare it to any of the other possession-esque movies we've gotten over the last few years, it's better than most. I'm just saying that with also the caveat that saying it's better than most of those movies does not necessarily mean it's great, because a lot of those movies are real bad. But, you know, it's a movie. I'll give it. I'll give it 60. 60. I wonder if this was at the Church of St. Anger out of 100. Yep, I went there, Jastin. Cinescore is a 30, or I'm sorry, 70. 70.
I was like, whoa. You didn't give it that low.
70. Cinescore is a 70. See, this would be the great time for the snare. Is a 70. Bang!
Quit.
Spoilers?
Yep.
Yep.
Spoilers.
All right, what was fucked up, Jastin? What did I miss?
Well, damn. Well, I think
It's a loaded question.
I know it's kind of a loaded question because I think those were just my thoughts after the totality of the film. I think so. It's just looking at everything that happened, just uncovering the conspiracy, and when you find out about all of these babies that were birthed and killed and everything like that, just to like sort of make this happen. And then just the and just everything that kind of happened with, basically she was knocked out, forcibly raped, and then had twins, and you know, the boy was like, oh yeah, this is our Antichrist. The rest of them, burn them and shit. You know, it was just pretty heartless shit. And then like her just, you know, and then of course they escape and everything. And then they escape, they're secluded. And then, you know, our good Father Brennan. Yes, just have to check the name. Father Brennan comes and says, well, they're going to, when they know where you are, they're going to come after you still. So the shit ain't over yet. You know, you might need to keep on running. So I don't know. I think it wasn't just one thing that was fucked up. It was just the totality of it all, I think, is what just had me walk out of it and go, well, damn, that was some shit. You know, it was just the whole journey, I think, that is the reason why I jumped to that conclusion. It was nothing about like a shocking ending, or it wasn't like it was one scene. I was just like, damn, that woman went through a lot. You know, that was a lot of shit to go through. But all you were trying to be was a nun. You know what I'm saying? I just signed up to be a nun. Like, what the hell? This is a lot of stuff. So I don't know. I just feel like, I guess that's overall why I felt like that. You know, when you think about it, she just was trying to be a nun, man. That was a lot of stuff. So yeah, you know, I mean, if you say that situation out loud, it sounds pretty crazy. You know, I was invited to the church. I was trying to be a nun, tried to have some fun, go out on the town just before I became a nun. And I was kidnapped. I was forcibly raped by this jackal thing and impregnated. And then they took one of my children and said he's going to be the Antichrist, and left me to burn inside the church with everybody else. And then I escaped. But guess what? These fools are still after me. You know?
That is a lifetime of trauma. Yeah.
You know, if you say all that out loud, that's pretty damn crazy. But then at the same time, what's appealing about her is that even still with all of that happening, what was the name of the little girl, the other little girl that could have been the potential mother, Catalina? Catalina.
Like
I think it was, yeah. Carlita.
Carlita, my bad. Thank you. Carlita. But like, I think what shines through in the movie, and that was interesting, Sterling, that you said that there were no moments where like this kind of took you down from the tension and everything like that. I really liked the dynamic with Margaret and Carlita. I thought that was good stuff, with her being this potential person that was going to be the mother of the Antichrist and everybody spreading these rumors about around her, bad things happen and stuff like that. So I kind of like this story of Margaret questioning all that and being sort of this caretaker and telling her, I had visions and I had issues and things that were in my head, but you can fight this. I just like that she was trying to show that character another side. And I think that by the end, when we get to the end and she's taking care of Carlita, that made a lot of sense to me. And, despite everything this character went through, there's still some humanity, man. She's taking care of Carlita and her kid. There was something kind of nice about that. There was something kind of nice about that despite this just horrific situation that this character went through. So I think little moments like that shine through. There were real moments of levity throughout the movie with those two characters, which I think is one of the big reasons why it worked so much. We talked about in some of those other movies how there's never the presentation of another side or another possibility of what this could be. And I think in this movie, her saying, well, these things may be in your head, but you can fight them. You don't have to be this person that people are saying you are and that you see in your head and everything like that. And even though, yes, Carlita was one of the sort of children spawned in order to do this, to be a mother of the Antichrist, in the end, Carlita seems okay. It seems like Margaret won through with her. She didn't become this crazed or insane or this person consumed by her past. In the end, Carlita makes good decisions and finds and cares about Margaret too. So I don't know. I feel like Margaret won. She didn't win every battle here. Damien's on the way. Damien's out of the cooker and on the way. But I feel like Margaret won something. Her humanity won something in the end. So I think that was good. I think that was good for the movie to have that. And I think it was good for the characters in question that we cared about, or the movie spent a lot of time with trying to get you to care about them. When we first meet Luz, Luz, I think her name's Luz, the one that kind of took Margaret out for the night on the town and everything. More moments of levity where she's just saying, you got to live a little bit. I know you're going to be a nun and everything, but, it's okay to have wants and stuff like that. And now we know those were manipulations and she was part of it. But at the time, that was another scene that felt like a scene of levity. We weren't just walking around listening to hissing and doing demon shit. We were at a club enjoying ourselves and dancing and meeting a guy and stuff like that. So I think there are moments in this where it's more than just we're trying to scare you. I think that there were a lot of moments of just levity and us getting to understand Margaret's position and not only the finding out of what was happening, but trying to be just a human amongst all these people that just have these devout beliefs about what needs to happen with this whole conspiracy and everything. So that was, I think, was another good part of the film. I like that the bad people in this, they even though we kind of are familiar with them because of the First Omen movie, I like how this kind of explained the motives. Like there was kind of this civil unrest and there were these people rebelling against the church and the church was losing members. So they made it a point to show you some of those things to kind of show the mindset of the church so that when you get to all this villainy, you understand it. You know, you saw the concerns of the church. You heard them talking about it. So even though I didn't get to spend as much time with the villains in this, so to speak, it wasn't like we got these big monologues or these big moments, which maybe it's a good thing they didn't do that. That may have come off as a bit corny or cheesy. You know what I'm saying? But at least I understood what the plan was based on just what Margaret was going through because she experienced some of the rebellion. She was around for some of what was happening and she got to hear and see firsthand kind of this unrest that was going on in the church. And so when you figure, so then when the nefarious plot comes into play and you're finding out how desperate they are, it kind of makes sense. You know, and it's not beyond the realm of the possibility that could I see a church going, we need to somehow manipulate people to make them do what we want? That ain't out of the realm of possibility for what we know about the history of different churches and things like that. You know, we've heard about this type of villainy before, you know, just in a different way. So, you know, the church getting uneasy and desperate and trying to manipulate some shit to manipulate people. I could see it happening. So all of that, I think, was good. You know, none of these things are great. It wasn't like the movie was doing this great storytelling, but this is competent storytelling. You know, they're doing enough to drive the narrative along. They're keeping you interested. You're understanding what is happening. And then at the same time, we're spending time with these other characters and building them. So, and I'm not going to lie, when we got towards the end, I had an inkling that Margaret somehow was involved. You know, I had a feeling that she wasn't just this bystander, that she was there for a reason and that somehow she was involved with the plot. So it wasn't like I didn't see all of it coming, but definitely you knew something was coming. You knew that there was more to her than just, oh, I'm trying to stop them from doing this to Carlita. You know, you knew it was going to be more than that. So when it was revealed that she was there to be the mother of the Antichrist, because Carlita was too young, they didn't want to wait that long, but they had her. She was another survivor of the Satan births, the jackal births. So we're going to use her instead. It all kind of made sense. You know, it wasn't the most shocking thing, but it made sense. That explains why she was summoned there. That explains what she was being prepared for. And it explains why ultimately the decision was made to have her do this. And now we know something we didn't know from the first movie, that Damien has a twin. So how does that come into play? You know, is that something that could possibly come into play later? Does the twin have a similar, you know, power, ability or anything like that? Because they're kind of born from the same hell spawn or whatever. So that was kind of interesting. And then the lengths that the church went to kill her and cover that up helps explain why none of that is mentioned in the original Omen. So, you know, so the story we got about Damien and his upbringing and everything, we see now how that too, some of that too is a machination of facts. And I believe in the original movie, they said that Damien's mom was a jackal or something like that. Well, this kind of answers that question of kind of like, well, a jackal was involved, but that isn't exactly what happened. So I liked all those little things. I liked some of those little tie-ins to the original Omen. You know, for anybody looking for Easter egg things or things to connect, they had some loose connections, but I don't think the movie overdid it with, hey, remember this old shit? You know, it didn't feel anything like that either. And I guess the last thing I'll say is just, I thought a lot of the imagery was good. The jump scares were whatever, but I think where this really got you was whoever did the editing and the cutting on this, I think did a really good job.
Yeah.
I agree. That's where it really excels with the scary imagery and stuff like that. It's the timing of everything. You see a little bit of this and then it cuts and then shows you something else. Or you see a little bit of I don't know, for lack of a better term, a vagina about to erupt. But then it goes back and then you're seeing the side of somebody's face and then you're seeing an eye looking worried and then you're seeing skin expand and then you're seeing, and sometimes you couldn't quite tell what you were looking at, but it was just gross. And then you know, you're seeing little inklings of things and it's kind of, and the movie kind of dizzies you with the imagery. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, here's a hand coming out of here's a claw coming out of a vagina. You know, like I liked how the movie did that. I like how it kind of played with you psychologically. Like I said, it was very cerebral in that way. And there were a lot of scenes like that where it would just show you a little bit, then cut away, then show you a little bit of this, then cut away, then kind of get you, you know, and I liked all of that. I liked when the film would do that, or these little just subtle jabs, like when she was sitting there going, this is not real, this is not real, this is not real. Then all of a sudden a voice, this is not real. And she's like, who said that? You know, like just little shit like that, man. Just this movie knew how to just kind of mess with you in that way. And that's how it was creating tension. But really, when you think about it, a lot of it was just the cutting and the editing. Like that's what was really effective about it when it would do those scenes. And I think that quality remained throughout, so that by the time you get to the end of it, you know, I'm not saying you'll remember these scenes for the end of time, but it was effective. Just very effective in how it displayed a lot of that, I guess for lack of a better term, spooky, scary imagery. So yeah, I think that's where I'll stop. Yeah.
I mean, you know, like I said, though, I think, like, I get what you're saying with the levity and whatnot and the lightheartedness. But to me, like I said, that's too front loaded. Her going out on the town with her roommate was the first act. You know, I disagree with the whole stuff with the little girl, just for the sheer fact that to me, that was meant to create more tension, because it was to add to the mystery of, is she the Antichrist or is she this or is she that? Like, I mean, I don't know. The entire movie, I felt like she was, what's her name? Margaret, the main girl. Whole movie, yeah. I thought she was going to have something. Like that she was the integral part of it all. Mm-hmm. And then the second they were like, right, you know, like a little bit before when she's like looking at the files and there was like, oh, look, there's been multiple babies. I went, oh, they're both that then. Like, I thought that the little girl was the red herring. It's like, because to me, I was like, it's obviously Margaret. I don't care what else they're doing. It's Margaret. And then they're like, but there's been multiple. I was like, okay, they're both. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, everything about that. And then like all the other little things like that you said, though, that you know, like, oh, like her life, like she was orphaned and she grew up in the church and she had visions as a kid and she got over it. And then she, you know, all these things like, and then what happened to her in this movie once she got to the nunnery or the convent, that's what they're called. And all those things, like, I don't know, that just seemed like normal. People are prophesied to have devil babies shit. Like, that's just standard fare in that shit. Like, anytime they do it in TV shows and movies and books, it's all this shit. You know, it's all just a slightly different flavor or ever so slightly different variation of that. But like, there's always elements of destiny and this and that. And yeah, especially when it comes to the Omen movies, because we know based on the other Omen movies that there was like a subsect within the church that was doing it. You know what I mean? So once this is all happening, I'm like, oh, this is that subsect of the church that's doing it, you know? And so I'm getting that like very early on in the movie. And so it's just like, I don't know. Nothing about this seemed, I didn't feel any real originality to me. I didn't feel any uniqueness. I didn't feel anything that was just not, at least to me, considered par for the course for a movie like this. And I think that that's maybe what it more is than anything. And maybe that's why it felt so monotonous to me or so monotoned with it. This is par for the course. Like, to me, this is par. Like, this is the bar that everybody should at least hit. You know, like, this is that medium bar that's like, you know, if you're below this, you suck. And if you're better than this, you're good. You know, like, this is that par level for me was what it presented. And I just felt like it gave me par level shit. Like, everything about this, I was like, par for the course. Especially if you have any sort of recollections or anything like that of the Omen movies. And don't get me wrong, I have the vaguest of recollections when it comes to that stuff. I haven't seen the first Omen in a very long time. The last time I watched anything Omen related was 2006's The Omen with Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, I think that was mine too. A long ass time ago.
Which is, I mean, for as much as I remember, is also downright almost a shot for shot remake. If I'm remembering correctly, it's just so much the same, you know? And so, I don't know. I came out of this movie just like, you know, I didn't hate it, but I also was just not like, oh man, it just existed. It's literally just how I spent 2 hours. That's what I came out of this movie going, I just spent 2 hours. And that's all I did. Because, I mean, like, even just the imagery with how they handled everything just felt the fucking same. And some of it, I don't know, at times it felt a little lazy. But then, to this movie's credit, anytime I thought that this movie was getting slightly lazy, I remembered what other lazy movies would have done. I went, okay, they're not actually being lazy. So, I don't know. I just don't necessarily want to congratulate this movie for being better than the bullshit we've seen. But I just have this weird feeling that we're going to get like 4 more possession movies that are going to suck so hard again. And I'm going to end up having to do like a Spider-Man No Way Home bullshit like 2 years from now and be like, you know, guys, you know, comparatively, it's probably not that bad. Maybe I was a little too harsh on it. I just hope that's not the case. Do better is what I'm saying. Do better, Hollywood. Heather, you got any more thoughts? You got some spoilery thoughts?
I think for me, the thing about this movie that I think does set it apart a little bit from other movies like it is the fact that I do think the characters feel like real people. I think that like like, for example, that scene that they have with Luce and Margaret right before they're about to like go out for the night and everything. Like, I don't know. I just feel like you see them as just not just nuns. You see them as more than just like the fact that they are preparing to be nuns. You see them as people who have things that they enjoy, things that they like doing, people who like music, people who like dancing, people who are young women still. And I like that they did that aspect of it because I don't really feel like I've seen that a lot in other movies like this. So I guess I would say that's the thing that I would say is a little bit different about this movie. And like even that scene with them, you know, when they're, you know, she's looking in the mirror at like what she's wearing and everything. I liked that moment with Luce where she's just kind of like, you know, if you're about to give everything up, you need to know what it is that you're giving up, you know? And I thought that was like a really like cool, interesting thing to say to her of like, yeah, you're making a really big decision. So you should know, like, even if this is all you've known or all you've wanted, like you should know what else is out there so that you know what it is that you are giving up for this life. So I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool element to add into it. So I just think that they had some good conversations. And I also really liked the conversation that Father Brennan had with her about essentially talking about how the people in authority in the place were really just, they feared things that they couldn't control. And so that's why they had such a, like, I don't know, I guess motivation, I would say, to try to control this Antichrist and control, you know, where it comes from and all these things, because I just think that that was a really interesting element to add of say, like, listen, like religious leaders, they don't like people and things that they can't control. And I think that's a real thing, you know, like there are different sects of churches and religions that feel that way and try to do that. And I think that was just a really interesting and also more modern type of take to put into this movie. And it was interesting because I don't feel like I've heard that specific take in a movie like this before. So I appreciated that, I guess, because it just felt like the motivation and the reason behind why they're just so adamant to want to control this thing and whatever, it made sense in that regard, you know, because it's like, it is people who don't like not being in control. It is people who fear things that they can't control and fear the element of not having control over people and things like that. So I just thought that was a really cool thing to put in the movie. So I appreciated that aspect of it. I mean, and I will say, like, the possession scene, when we get to the point where they just get into the big car wreck and then, you know, she's doing her whole possession thing.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. I completely forgot about that. But that, what you're about to say is what I have a feeling, because you're bringing it up. I have a feeling you're going to say what I thought.
Yeah, it's a two-part thing. For one, I do want to say her performance as becoming possessed, I thought was really well done. But it's that element of the whole thing leading up to that was weird because it felt very out of nowhere and very much just like a convenience factor of like, she just learned that she was one of these people, one of these spawns. And then immediately after she learns that, everything starts happening. She starts, you know, getting, you know, possessed like, and she starts throwing up and she starts realizing or becoming pregnant, but only in the moments after she realized that that's who she was the spawn of, you know, the Antichrist or whatever it was, or the spawn of the demon that created the Antichrist. And I just think
it's the spawn of a jackal that is somehow the Antichrist.
Yeah. Right.
The fuck is
whatever
this
it
lore?
was. Yeah. Yeah. But like, that's something that was probably one of my biggest complaints about the movie was just like I mean, they did such a build up, and kind of like what you said earlier, Jastin, of like a slow burn. They did such a build up to just like this mystery of figuring out what this is. And then immediately after it's figured out, everything happens in 10 minutes time. It seems like, you know, she becomes possessed. She has all these things happening. She becomes pregnant. She has the baby, like gets taken over by whatever. Like it's all happening in just the craziest short timeline that felt like out of nowhere based off of everything else leading up to it. Is that what you were going to say, Sterling?
Pretty much. It was just her acting in it was good, but it's like, oh, the movie's happening, and all of a sudden, just within 30 seconds of her finding out she's actually one of these people, she's full on demon mode.
Yeah. No real symptoms before that or anything like that. Other than, I mean,
her visions
the fact that,
and that stuff.
The thing that should have
yes,
visions
it's just
for.
what she was. It's that weird convenience of, you're a demon, baby. No, I'm not.
Suddenly, I am. Yeah, exactly.
And then just so like also like it's so convenient that she happened to go all demon person, 4 hours before she needed to,
right?
So they could get her and take her to this place.
Exactly.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad that demonic
they
lore
could have shown some.
Yeah. And I know they were trying to show like and hint at it with like the visions she was having of like the people and being grabbed. And I get that, but it's like, that was also when you were still trying to misdirect. Mm-hmm. You were still trying to give the impression that she was being influenced by the devil baby, not that she was a devil baby. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, that it really is. It's 0 to 60.
Yeah.
And like, it's just one of those things that like all these people apparently know all this secret demonic lore. Also, like one thing I have issues with these movies, how does all this demon lore get written down? Like who's writing down the demon lore to like with such accuracy where they just know exactly like down to the minute, which also can Hollywood get over the idea of the significance of the number 666? Can it get over that? Because in all actuality, in the book of Revelations, when it references 666, that is a direct reference to Emperor Nero. That is not a reference to the devil. That is a reference to Nero. 666 is nothing. It's nothing. It has nothing to do with the devil. It has nothing to do with any of this shit. Can you just fucking stop? I know it's cool. I've got a tattoo that involves 666. I get it. It's some cool devil shit, but also don't make it to where you're going to be born on the 6th month, on the 6th day, on the 6th hour. Motherfucker, stop. That's ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just get over it. Just stop it. It's annoying. But yes, you did get it, Heather. Just, oh, that's a really great performance. But also, why? Where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And I totally forgot to say that. But yeah, I'm glad you said that because it just wrapped up. And I get that the movie had to wrap up and they needed a big finale. So I guess they were thinking, we'll have it all at the end. But even though we had some visual, now the movie could argue, well, we did show you some visual signs with her visions and stuff like that. But if there was a way to piece that all together, like if we saw all the visions together, maybe we couldn't tell what the visions were, and there should have been some physical signs, I would think, even if she was getting sick and didn't know why, or she was, and maybe they thought, oh, that would be a dead giveaway. But I mean, we knew that she was going to be involved at the end somehow. So, maybe if she had, I think she just needed to show some physical signs. Or once we got to the end, maybe all these little visions that we saw, we see the whole vision and realize, oh, this was her being forcefully impregnated or something. I don't know. But but yeah, it would have been nice to have tied that up together better, because I get what you're saying with just how abrupt and fast it all seemed to be happening, just so we could have a big third act finale.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I will be honest about it. I don't know if it was maybe just the way that they kind of built up telling the story of what was happening. Like, obviously, you know, I felt like Margaret was going to be involved in it somehow, or just be like the hero of it, or figure it out to rescue people or whatever it was. But I'm not going to lie. I actually, for a little bit there, thought that Luce was going to be the other one, because the way that they were doing the flashbacks and telling the story about, like, you know, check for the mark or whatever the guy told her before he got run over. Like, it made me think that he was saying, check for the mark on your friend who was also at the club with you, who I saw. So I thought that was kind of the direction they were going with it for a minute, which would have also been fine, I think. But, you know, so maybe that was just me. Maybe I'm the only one who didn't completely see it coming that Margaret was the one. But I knew she would be involved somehow. But it just also, the way that they were doing Luce's character, it just kind of, they were doing cutbacks to her and things like that, and showing the importance of her, you know, becoming a full on nun and stuff like that. It just felt like she had such an important part, which she did, but the important part she played was different than what I thought. So for me, yeah, I thought Luce for some reason was going to be the one, and that Margaret was just going to have to go and find her and save her, like, you know, keep her from being completely just murdered and burned or whatever it was that they were doing to Margaret. So, but yeah, I think that was just my first thought of what was going to happen with it. But yeah, and then obviously when they find, like, oh yeah, she has the little symbol on her head, I was like, oh, that's what they're saying. They're saying it's her. So that makes sense. So yeah, but I will say also the scenes where they're doing, like, the flashbacks when she's figuring everything out, and, you know, it's kind of showing her visions and the flashbacks of what's happening. I think that looks really cool. I think it's really cool how they do them, like the slow motion, and everything's like black background, and you're just seeing the people and what's happening. Like, I thought that was really well done. I did appreciate that aspect of it. Yeah. And it was also interesting, and I don't know, kind of weird though, that the guy that she found at the club, or maybe Luce was in on it, but the guy at the club was part of this group of people that brought her there, and all of this, like, that was kind of, if I would say there was something lazy about the movie, I feel like that was probably what it was.
That made me sane angry.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
but
when they did that whole thing, and then later when she finds him, and he's like, I didn't know. And then he's like, check for the mark. And he's like, I'm just like, he didn't know what? What did he know? That she was the Antichrist person? Or that, like, because like you said, he was a part of it. Yeah. Yeah. So what did he know? Why was he all of a sudden scared? That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Why that's his reaction. But you also reminded me of something, Heather. How the fuck in 1977 or 1976, whatever fucking year it was, like, what in 4K video technology did they have where they could see that tiny ass 666 on that baby's fucking forehead in those fucking pictures?
In the photos?
In those grainy ass pictures. They have the grainiest of grainy pictures that somehow has a digitally enhanced, like it's on fucking CSI bullshit on that 666 randomly. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That is
right.
Has anybody ever seen anybody involved in the making of this movie? Had they ever seen a picture taken before 2008? Unless you had professional cameras, you ain't seeing shit for detail.
Right. Yep, that's fair. Convenience again. They do a lot of that in here.
And that's, to me, like, that's what, like, was one of those bummer things. And I think that's why, once again, like I said, I wasn't surprised by anything, because they just, you know, like Jasmine was saying, they knew they needed to wrap it up at that point. They needed to get to this. They needed to get to that. And so it's just like, hey, how many of the normal plot points can we throw in real quick? And they just did it in like 10 minutes. They went, yep, every plot point that we could put in this fucking movie, let's knock them out real quick. And like you said, when you're doing it like that, unfortunately, like you're saying, Heather, you've got to rely on convenience. You can't actually write a clever way to do it. You have to convenience yourself to get to do these things because you're doing it too quick.
Yeah. Oh, also something I noticed that in the moment I was really just like, it was a very small thing, but when Margaret and the guy who goes back to the priest's place with them, when they're going through all the photos and whatever.
Isn't that Father Gabriel?
Maybe.
You're talking about the other priest, right?
Yeah.
I want to say his name was Gabriel.
The younger one. Yeah. And they like, you know, they're banging on his door or whatever, and he lets them in. And he has all these locks on his door. As soon as they come in, he just closes the door and he doesn't lock it again. And I'm like, you're just so like, you want to be so safe. And you have like any other time we see him in his place, when he lets somebody in, he's just make sure, you know, and locks it, whatever. But as soon as like both of these people come in and they're like, we got some craziness to talk about, he doesn't bother to like lock the door behind them, which was just kind of funny to me. I don't know why, but
fair.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the time you mostly lock your door.
That's because the movie's trying to wrap up. They don't have time to film him locking 27 locks. They got to get it going. They're hitting third act time.
Yeah.
They don't
have time to unlock doors. Yeah. Yeah. You can't lock it to just have to later unlock it. You don't have time for it.
Yeah.
When there's possessions and pregnancies happening within 10 minutes of time, you don't have time for it. So fair enough.
It's kind of like how in TV shows, at least the old rule of thumb was you never heard them say goodbye on the telephone.
Yeah. It's always just like a hang up. Yeah. Dramatic effect says we end it like this. Yeah.
Dramatic effect says we can't lock the door.
Yeah.
We can unlock it, but whoa, you lock that door. Precious seconds lost.
I know. And I'm not even sure why I noticed that, but I was just like, you know, you would lock that door. This is some crazy stuff going on. Like, and you've got all of these documents that were just brought in that you took from the school or the church or
it should have been flipped, because you know when you're not in danger when you got no documents. You know when you're in danger when you got documents. Documents
of, you know, creating humans to create the Antichrist. Like, that's stuff that you lock your door for. I'm sorry.
Also, like,
just
to me,
you have those conversations, you lock your door.
Is that not also the weirdest logic? We need somebody that's 3/4 demon, because just that half demon wasn't cutting it. Let's have the demon fuck one of its own daughters. That's how we get the son. Everybody knows, genetically speaking, to get a male like a male Antichrist, you gotta be 3/4 demon.
Yeah.
Gotta have that pure blood, dog.
But what were they doing? Were they sitting there doing fucking Punnett squares? Like it's fucking 9th grade biology of like demon genetics. Like, well, to get this trait, we got to do it with this and this. We got to find the fuck is this shit.
And also just the way that she so easily like gave birth to twins without any knowledge of her being pregnant, first of all. So not prepared with like the breathing and the whatever.
Well, that's the whole idea of demon birth. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Plus they did C-section her.
Oh yeah, that's true. They did do that. You're right. Yeah. But
yeah, I just think they should have activated it in some way, rather than having the throw up scene and all of that stuff happen at one time. Like if the car had wrecked, so she figured this out and she's like, well, fuck, I got to do something. What are we going to do? Well, we got to figure out a way to get it out of your body before they can get to you. Then the car wrecks, you know, she comes to, she tries to run away. They grab her. Then they could have just activated the pregnancy. It could have been some ritual or something. Yeah, some chant, and then all of a sudden she's like, what are y'all doing? And then all of a sudden her stomach is getting big.
See?
So you could have had the Instead of it happening without them, it should have happened with them because she was going to get captured anyway.
And I like that, Jastin, because that's actually something a little new-ish, you know what I mean? Like, and that's actually creepier that you're not pregnant and they're just doing a chant. And all of a sudden you're just getting pregnant and delivering babies.
Yeah.
Like that's
fair.
But the thing is though, too, I would have liked it if she was pregnant throughout the movie or something like that. Because that adds some tension to it, because then you get some elements of like a Rosemary's Baby. Of not knowing, like she finds out she's pregnant, but doesn't know it's with a demon baby. You know, you get some duality, you get some other interesting elements in there. Maybe not the most original, but still you get something instead of it just being a 4-hour pregnancy. You know? But like, I really like your idea, Jastin. Like they go, they kidnap her. They start doing a chant. And then you could have her strapped to the table and do some possession shit while they're chanting.
Kind of like, what is that House of the Devil movie?
Yeah.
Where they like, they kidnap her and they just like tie her down and they do the chanting and the like ritual thing like that, but with this, you know, baby situation. So. Yeah.
Lean into what the satanic panic said everybody was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to have the satanic
and,
ritual.
You know, and to be fair, we are talking about like some sort of supernatural satanic birth. So comparing it to an actual birth and wanting to see second and third trimesters and shit is a little ridiculous too. But but if you're going to do it, but I get the feeling that still it happened quickly, even though it's like, well, how fast is a supernatural birth compared to a regular birth? You know, it's not like anybody can answer this question anyway, but I do like the idea of them having to activate it in some way. You know, they're there, the jackal that impregnated is there, and they're doing something to cause this to happen faster. You know, in a supernatural way would have been cool.
Yeah, because they kind of did that in this. With the idea of more or less the activation of her pregnancy was her just finding out she was pregnant. Like the second she found out she's pregnant, all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant. Oh no, pregnant, possessed, pregnant." Like that was her activating thing, was just going, "Oh, I'm pregnant." Oh, then like that feels weird. That feels like, like I get what you're saying, Jastin. It's like, well, you're putting like logic to a supernatural demon pregnancy, but that's why, to me, it leans better into doing 9 months or doing 9 minutes, not 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird zone.
Yeah.
Like it's supernatural, but it just feels weird. You know, whereas I really like your idea, Jastin, like, because you can keep a lot of those same beats.
Yeah. And then it's just a creepier element of control.
And like I said, you have her tied down and you can have her start doing the possession shit then. So you can still get that element into it.
Yeah.
Like she could be freaking out going, what's going on?
Puked all over herself. And so all that shit's all gross and shit. And then stuff starts happening. She's like, what are you doing to me? And then all of a sudden stomach's getting big, you know. It would have been tight.
I really think that would have actually been insanely effective.
Yeah.
And honestly, to me, that is scarier. You're nothing. You vaguely remember that you got, you know, Jackal impregnated. And then all of a sudden they're just doing a chant and you are pregnant.
Yeah.
Like full on, oh, it's time to go pregnant.
Yeah. Right.
Like that to me would be insanely scarier.
I mean, and I will say the scene of, you know, the demon claw coming out of the woman, I think it was effective because I was like, that's terrifying to think about. Like the image of it was crazy, but I feel
like I've seen something like that before.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why it didn't get me. But I've watched some dumb shit. I've watched some weird shit.
But I mean, like it's the fact also that like that was a more creepy image of like giving birth to a demon thing than the actual birth was. So I just was curious what that was about. But either way, it was still effective imagery. So, yeah. But that's all I got. I just, my small complaints about it. But overall, like I said, I think that they did a lot of things right with how they decided to do this movie. And honestly, it hinges a lot on the performances of the people, making it, realistic enough performances for you to care more about the story going on here.
I agree. Anyway, you guys got any more thoughts on this here Omen, the first Omen?
I am good.
Omen 4, the first one. All right. Well, on that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook. We're Cinema_Slayers on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd. We're at Cinema Slayers pod on TikTok and YouTube. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Ochoa for our theme song and logos, respectively. Give us 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. It really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends, and most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
not being pregnant with the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
fair. All I got for this one.
Especially if you're already a mother.
Yeah, right.
And I know sometimes there are mothers that feel like their kids are the Antichrist, though.
True.
I'm sure my mother felt that way. I mean, I remember my one of the things my mother used to say to me was like, "Oh, you used to be such an angel when you were younger. And now look at you."
Lovely.
Apparently I pulled a Damien. I don't know. Apparently that's what happens. That's what happens when you've got blonde flowing locks and they all just wither away and die. And you end up bald. You turn into a problem child. Jastin was a problem child. You can tell. Problem children lose their hair.
That's what that means? Okay.
Weirdly enough, Jastin, I think you were probably the best child here.
I guess. I don't know.
Child Heather liked Burger King. It couldn't have been me.
Yeah.
If anybody liked Burger King, it's Child Jastin.
Child Heather's pretty badass, though. My vote's for Child Heather. She's had so many adventures.
See, that's the thing, though, is like adventuring children. Those are the ones that are kind of rambunctious, though. That's why, like, Heather, you can't be the best behaved child here on the podcast. You were going on adventures.
Yeah, too many adventures.
Your parents were constantly scared because you would never come home by dinner time.
Yes.
You know, like when the street lights come on, you got to come in. You're like street slow, and they're like, "Oh man, Heather hasn't come back yet," and you'd be like, "Well, I guess she's on another adventure." Oh no, now we have to worry until our daughter comes home from her adventuring.
The rebellious me and my adventures.
Is that why you don't love the movie Goonies? Because you lived it?
Yes. That it just felt like, oh, been there, done that. That makes sense. Yeah.
So you got pizza at 9:00 in the morning? Delivered
Probably.
fresh?
Yeah.
That's tight.
No marshmallows. Hold the marshmallows.
I feel like that's the craziest thing you ever did, Jastin. I just feel like you as a kid, the craziest thing you ever did was that.
Which technically, didn't your dad make you do that?
Well, he ordered
made you eat
it.
it
His
anyway?
dad made him eat it.
Yeah. He ordered it for me because I told him I wanted it. And he just thought, oh, this is an opportunity to teach him a lesson. He'll regret this for the rest of his life.
I just kind of feel like child Jastin's like, "I'm sorry, Father. I'll never do that again."
That sounds right.
I'm
yeah.
not a Ninja Turtle.
I'm sorry, Papa. I know I'm not an adolescent amphibian, but I'd really like to try this. And you're like,
Why do I sound so uppity?
Uncanny.
you just sound like, a slightly more modern
Proper.
Oliver Twist.
Well behaved.
Father.
Papa.
Papa. Papa, may I please have some gelatinized sugar on my pizza pie? Like my friends, the adolescent combat amphibians.
The one named after the
Combat
the
amphibian.
Michelangelo.
You know, Father. Michelangelo, your favorite painter of the Renaissance era. He's inspired this in me. Come on, Jastin. You know that's a spot-on, accurate depiction of you as a kid. Like, are you in like some weird...
Combat amphibians is the best.
Are you adolescent combat amphibians? Are you in some like weird like uncanny valley right now, Jastin, where you're like, man, how does Sterling know how I sounded like when I was a child? I didn't meet him until I was 18. How does he know? I've got a gift. It's a part of my training to fight Henry Kissinger.
That's fair.
Oh,
Don't worry. He's still dead.
And to make sure he's still dead.
He's still dead.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's a part of this thing, this meditation technique I have to do to be able to, watch his grave from here. It allows me to see into the past.
Nice.
It's how it fuels me and trains me. Because I go and I watch all the deaths that Henry Kissinger committed. It's taxing, but I do it.
You remember
For the
why
greater
you're
good.
there watching the grave. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's got to have a why, man.
Yeah.
You know your why.
And I do it for you guys. I do it for everyone. I won't let this undead son of a bitch take over the world like you wanted to. I really do wonder if just at any point somebody ever actually worries about me in my obsession with whether or not Henry Kissinger may or may not come back from the dead.
Or maybe it's that person that's like, you know what? I've been wondering the same thing every week. Thank you for the update.
Hey.
Saving lives,
I just wish I was born sooner and I could have done more when he was committing war crimes. But, unfortunately, I wasn't even alive yet. So there's nothing I could do. And it haunts me still, though. Haunts me still. Anyway, we here at the Cinescore podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, and pro naked. You, Cinefans, you are Knuff. And justice for Chris. And Todd. Todd tried to help. He's like, hey guys, how about we don't do this in this Godzilla versus Kong? And they went, shut your fucking face, Todd. Why are you trying to make a good movie, Todd? We're just trying to pump out some bullshit.
Poor Todd. Poor Todd.
And he was right. I think that's what hurts the most. He was right. Man, Todd. Got your back, Todd. And as I always end this podcast, these TikToks and the YouTube videos, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the Best Picture winner.
Yeah, if Todd was on this project, he definitely would have been like, hey, you're just going to have her throw up and just start being pregnant all of a sudden? Shouldn't we draw that out a bit more, kind of sprinkle some stuff in? We're in the third act, Todd. This movie has to end, Todd. We have 2 hours? I don't know what this is.
It's about 2 hours.
I don't know.
I want to say it was at hour 50, or it might have been two on the dot.
Do we have a 2.5 hour runtime, Todd, or do we have a 2 hour runtime?
Man, if they had,
Say it, Todd.
if Todd was there, he would have gotten it 2 hours and it would have made sense. It would have just been clean.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. You guys chat real quick. Don't stop recording. Just keep chatting. I do want to show my cats that I hadn't gotten to show. I want to show Dupe and Matthew. So let me just open the door and get them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, got to make the debut.
Yeah, they do have to make the debut.
Yeah. Understandable. Oh, man. See, now I need like an Adventures of Child Jastin. You know what I mean? Like, well-behaved child Jastin. We're just like
Just in that
like
voice.
Yeah, all of us as children, like having like a show about us as kids and our
That'd be
adventures.
hilarious.
I'd watch
That'd be
it.
great.
I think it would be very entertaining.
This is Duperton.
Oh, so cute, buddy.
He doesn't like being picked up like this.
It's like, what's going on? Really, really cute.
Okay, try putting it down, buddy.
You got to show them some love, you know.
Oh, Matthew.
Oh, look at that face. So cute.
Yeah. I had never gotten to show them, so
That's true.
I had to show them
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah. The others just kind of like to, you know, broadcast themselves during our episode.
Yes, except when I have the door shut.
Yeah.
And then that's why, if anybody hears random like meowing and scratching, that's my big orange cat out the door. So,
Yeah, every now and then when I go back and listen to recordings, I do hear him. I do hear him
Meow.
every now and then.
that's my big
I
orange
know
cat.
who that
Because
is.
he has
Meow.
weird separation anxiety.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's my cats. All right, outside of that, I'm done.
Same.
Later.